There's the kind of player quote that's pure protocol, my friend. That rehearsed line, no blood in it, the one everybody forgets 5 minutes later. And then there's the kind of quote that changes the temperature of an entire locker room. This week, one of the biggest names on this roster sat down in front of the cameras and used a word almost no champion has the nerve to say out loud. It wasn't humility. It wasn't a thank you speech. It was the exact opposite of that. He admitted, with no hedging, that he has become a greedy man. And once you understand the context behind that word, you realize it wasn't a throwaway line. It was a direct message to the other 31 franchises in the league. And look at the timing of it. A team that lifted the Vince Lombardi Trophy just 2 seasons ago, but that last year was knocked out in the very first round of the playoffs, at home, with an entire season thrown away in 60 minutes of football. That wound is still open in Philadelphia. And it was in exactly that setting that this player chose to open his mouth. If you're a die-hard Eagles fan, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to show you exactly what he said, why that statement carries far more weight than it appears to at first glance, and why last season's numbers, combined with the structure of his contract, turned 2026 into the most decisive season of this man's career in Philadelphia. Let's get to what happened. With training camp already underway at the Jefferson Health Training Complex, he appeared on the Up and Adams show and spoke openly about his goals for the 2026 season. And he was blunt. Once you get the opportunity to win a Super Bowl, you kind of get greedy. He wants to feel that again. He doesn't want to get close. He doesn't want to compete for it. He wants to feel it again. And the name of that player, the running back who carried this offense on his back to a title, and who now enters a completely decisive year, is Saquon Barkley. Now let's understand the real weight of that line. No talk about focusing on one game at a time. No lukewarm preseason boilerplate. He put the ultimate goal on the table in August, publicly, knowing it would become a headline across every outlet in the league. And let's be honest, how many athletes have the resume required to say something like that without becoming a punchline? Because when the guy who did what he did talks about being greedy for championships, it doesn't sound like empty arrogance. It sounds like a warning. The recent context explains everything. The Eagles beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago. Last season, the team finished with 11 wins and 6 losses and captured the NFC East title, which in most cities would be considered a successful year. But that's not how it works in Philadelphia, because that year ended with an elimination against the San Francisco 49ers in the wildcard round, a division title in hand and a fall at the first door of the playoffs. Do you think a player with his mentality digests that over an entire offseason without it turning into fuel? And here the numbers tell a story nobody in Philadelphia can ignore. Last season, Barkley played 16 games, carried the ball 280 times for 1,140 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns. He added 273 receiving yards, finishing at 1,413 all-purpose yards. Numbers the overwhelming majority of running backs in this league would sign for without thinking twice. The problem is that those aren't just any numbers. They're his, and his standard lives on another planet. Because 2 years ago, here's what happened. 345 carries, 2,005 rushing yards, and 13 rushing touchdowns, 15 total touchdowns. He broke the single-season rushing record in the history of this franchise. And, counting the playoffs, he reached 2,504 yards, the highest total ever recorded by any player in NFL history, surpassing the mark that belonged to Terrell Davis. He was named Offensive Player of the Year by the Associated Press. That wasn't just a great season. For a lot of people, that was the finest individual campaign anyone has ever had in this uniform. So the comparison is brutal. From 2,005 yards down to 1,140. From 13 rushing touchdowns down to 7. He finished last season 10th among the league's rushers in yards, and the financial details show just how real that drop was. In the record year, he hit absolutely every incentive in his contract. Last season, he reached none of them. He finished 87 yards short of securing a $250,000 bonus for all-purpose yards. 87 yards. Less than 6 yards per game across the season. And this is exactly where it gets interesting, because the structure of the contract turns 2026 into a decision year. After that historic season, the Eagles did something rare in the modern NFL. They rewarded the player ahead of schedule, with a 2-year extension worth $41,200,000, $36 million of it guaranteed. an annual average of $20,600,000. For this season, he has $16,750,000 in guaranteed salary. But for 2027, the guaranteed figure collapses to $2.5 million, with a much larger cap charge. Translating that into plain language, if the 2026 season repeats last year's performance, this could very easily be his final campaign in an Eagles uniform. Now put the pieces together. You have a 29-year-old player with heavy mileage in his career, entering a financially decisive year, talking publicly about being greedy for another title. And there's more. The entire offense was rebuilt around him. The biggest storyline of this offseason was the trade of A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots. To fill that hole, the franchise brought in Dontavion Wicks in a deal with Green Bay, signed Marquise Hollywood Brown, and used a first-round pick on Mekhi Lemon. It's a completely new receiving group, with a first-time offensive coordinator installing a system from scratch. And what does that mean in practice? It means this offense is going to run the football. It means that while the new receivers build chemistry with Jalen Hurts, the center of gravity for the entire team runs through number 26. The Eagles will go exactly as far as he can take them. That's not broadcast hyperbole. That's the most direct reading possible of how this roster was assembled. Now let's be fair and transparent, because this channel doesn't run on blind excitement. 4 points need to be said. First, an August quote doesn't win a game in January. Every roster in the NFL, all 32 of them, is talking about the Super Bowl at this exact point on the calendar. The distance between talk and execution is 5 months and 17 games. Second, last season's drop in production didn't have a single isolated cause. Football teams depend on a healthy offensive line, on balance in the passing game, and on game script. Putting the entire result on the running back's personal account would oversimplify an equation with a lot of variables. Third, there's a real and well-known physical risk. He has already carried an enormous workload throughout his entire career, and he has a history of significant injuries. Asking for maximum volume again from a 29-year-old athlete at that position is a bet with built-in risk, no matter how talented he is. And fourth, repeating 2,000 yards is essentially impossible, and demanding that of him is unfair. That season was a historic event, not a floor to be cleared every year. What the Eagles actually need isn't the miracle from 2 years ago, but a solid middle version who stays available all campaign long. The regular season kicks off on September 13th, at home, against the Washington Commanders. That's where the accounting begins. So I really want to hear your opinion. Do you believe Saquon Barkley returns to being dominant in 2026, taking advantage of an offense designed to run the football? Or do you think last season was the natural beginning of the decline of a running back with a lot of mileage on his legs? And going deeper, knowing that the contract essentially makes this his last guaranteed season in Philadelphia, should the Eagles increase his workload to chase another title right now? Or protect the player and spread the carries around with the long term in mind? Drop it in the comments. I want to read what you think. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back later to update you with the latest Eagles news.